Hi everyone, this is Karen Hooley. I'm just going to adjust my camera here. Good morning. Hi Carlene, I just saw that you're on and asked me all the questions. I'm glad. My allergies are so out of whack today. We've went from 85 degrees this weekend to today it's raining. So my throat is going nuts with all of the changes in weather. So excuse my voice. I'm glad you're having a really hot day in Tucson and it's really nice out there. Are you staying in? I would personally, so I've been to Phoenix. My husband actually grew up in Phoenix and we went to visit his grandmother in April and it was the first day it cracked 100 and we were both dying. So I understand what heat in Arizona can be like. You had a Gila monster run up to a neighbor's front door. Oh my gosh. Those are the kind of things that we do. We don't have here in Washington are Gila monsters, but my husband has talked about the Gila monsters. So I would be afraid to open the door too. She crocheted. That's definitely not a way to meet a crocheter. It's crazy. That's crazy. The packing's going good. You can probably see my room is starting to empty out over here. We were supposed to have carpets put in yesterday. So this room would have been even more empty. But we couldn't get a piano mover to move our piano out. So we had to reschedule. So that's one of the things I'm going to be working on today is getting the new carpet rescheduled. But yeah, it's going well. It's going well. My office is almost empty. We've got painters upstairs. Finishing up the painting upstairs. And then this week sometime, my husband and I are going to go probably go get a storage unit because our garage is filling up and eventually we need to get the piano up into the garage before we move out. So we're going to deal with that. So yeah, that's where I'm kind of at with my packing. My daughter is actually here right now because this is the weekend she graduated, and we watched her virtually graduate online on Saturday. But she's going back to her university today, and then she's going to pack up her apartment there, and we're going to go pick her up on Saturday and move her home for good. So yay! Hi, Karen. I'm back at work today at the jewelry shop, just keeping up with filing. Oh, wow. Welcome, Linda. It's good to see you. I'm glad you're here, but I'm glad you're working too. That's awesome. That's awesome. Things are opening up. Thank you, Carlene. Yeah, we're excited. My husband and I realized that we are done with college. We are done. We're done. So we're very excited about that. How is everybody else out there? What are you guys working on? How are things? I'm here working on a new project for my next book. I'll show you this. It's going to be a shawl. Obviously, you can probably tell by the shape. I'm just getting started with it right now. But that's what I'm working on right now. I'm doing a book where it's going to be kind of different from the other books, at least conceptually right now. I mean, as I work on books, I tend to it kind of morphs into something different sometimes. But the concept right now is to start off with, you're going to be learning a couple techniques that I use. And I'm going to start out with some really easy patterns, and it's going to teach you some skills to be able to go to the more difficult patterns. So that's what I'm doing. Modern Italian lace. Actually, I've got a bunch of the books right here stacked up, ready to work. Pre-orders start next week. If you're on my newsletter, make sure you watch for Monday for a special pre-sale that you guys get first to order ahead of everybody else. Official pre-sales open up on Tuesday next week, so a week from today. And so when I'm live next week, I'll be talking about, we'll talk about how the initial pre-sale went. So that's coming up. I'm really excited about that. I got a lot going on. There's so much. I'm so glad graduation's over because now I can focus on the pre-order and the moving. So yeah, I have books going, Carlene, back to back usually. This one might not be out till later 2021. I'm kind of, because of this move, and then my daughter's getting married, probably the end of next year. I'm going to be moving a little slower. But hi, Ruth. Welcome. Welcome, Ruth from Vermont. Wow. I'm so glad you're here. We were just talking about my new book that's coming out next week, Modern Italian Lace Crochet. It's not coming out next week. Pre-orders start next week. But I was also talking about how I always have another book usually working in the background. So this one I'm going to do a little bit slower because of all the things going on in my life right now. We're moving. My daughter's getting married. So I'm like fitting projects in between all the other things that I have to get done. So in fact, you can see my office here is all pretty much emptied out except for a few things. So yeah, so it's been crazy. It's really crazy. So tell me, guys, what are you guys working on this week? Any projects that you finished or you're working on right now? I'd love to hear about them. And then also, I decided this week, instead of me coming up with a topic, I thought I'd let you guys just ask me questions. If there are too detailed questions where I would need to show you, I may not be able to answer your questions. But you know, if it's a crochet question where you actually would need to actually crochet, I may not be able to do that. But any other questions, and you know, in general, I can actually do. So okay, so Carlene asks, is it hard to self-publish? Pros, cons. Will you be publishing for other crochet designers? Let me answer the second part of that first. Will you be publishing for other crochet designers? Right now, most likely not. The reason is the answer to the first question is that it is very, I mean, I have streamlined mine now to where I know the order I have to do everything. So, you know, I usually start with a concept. This book was easier, the concept, the modern Italian lace crochet was easy because I knew it was going to revolve around everything that I learned as a child from my Italian grandmother. So it was easy for me to come up with, you know, stitch patterns I wanted to use, what I wanted to use those patterns for, you know, whether it was a garment or a shawl or a hat or whatever. So that was really easy. But when I'm doing a book like the one I'm working on now, where I have this concept in my head that I'm not going to give you the complete concept, and then I work on each project as I go, you know, as I work, and sometimes it evolves into something a little bit different, like coastal crochet evolved into a little bit different book. I mean, I knew it was going to be coastal theme, but originally it was going to be all shawls. And then I decided I needed garments, that kind of thing, where, so that's what I do with that. But the pros of self-publishing is that I'm in control of everything. So if I come up with an idea, I don't have a publisher coming to me saying, oh, you know, we like the coastal idea. I'm going to use coastal crochet as an example. We like the coastal idea, but we want you to do more garments than shawls. Or we want you to do, excuse me, we want it to be less about the coast and more about this particular yarn or something like that. So I'm in control of that. The other thing that is really pro self-publishing is that I get more of the profit once. I mean, I put out a lot of money. I mean, you know, when you're working with a traditional publisher, you know, they print the books and they do the marketing and all that, and I don't have to pay for any of that. So, but then in return is that I only get pennies on the dollar. Usually a person who publishes a book, and this is true across the board, it's not just craft books. I mean, this is novels and everything else. You usually get somewhere between 10 and 15% per book, depending on maybe 20 if it's a generous publisher. Where in this case, once my outlay is even, you know, so if I'm just going to throw a number out there, but let's say I spent $5,000 to produce my book. Once I've made $5,000, everything on that top of that, other than having the books printed, is basically profit. So that's why self-publishing is great, because I make a lot more on my books. What the cons are is that I have to lay out the money out front. I have to do all my marketing myself. I don't have an assistant right now at this time. Eventually, I would like to hire somebody to help me with all of the marketing. But right now, I don't have that person, so I have to do all of that. I do have a distributor for my books, but I do have to pay them. If they make sales for me, I have to pay them a percentage. So that's kind of where the downsides are. But after being published with, some of the big crochet brands like Leisure Arts and Annie's, I'm finding that I really like having the control over what my books look like. So that's why I've opted to go self-publishing. That's not to say that if someone came to me and offered me a book deal, I wouldn't necessarily turn it down. It depends on what the deal is and if it fits into my schedule, and if it's something that I would want to publish in my own line, or if it's something that I would be like something else. So does that answer your question, Carlene? And because there's so much money outlay for me, that's where I wouldn't do for other crochet designers right now. I mean, if my books were going to where I was making, several, 6 to 7 figures, which in the craft industry is very hard to do, then maybe I would consider it. But right now, that's not kind of where I'm at. So who knows in the future? I'll never say never. So that's where I'm at. Okay, so Ruth asked me, am I downsizing? Actually, we're actually upsizing a little bit, even though my kids are both not at home. We're getting a little bit bigger house than what we have now. It's going to have the same number of bedrooms. We have 4 bedrooms, and it's going to have a den for my husband because he works at home full time. And then my daughter is going to be living with us for a little while until she gets married. So we need to have a room for her. And then, of course, I need to have an office and studio myself. So, and then if we're looking at having grandchildren in the future and family visiting, because we live 900 miles away from all of our family. We're actually moving closer to my husband's sister, which is nice. So we'll have some family in the area, but we know that we'll have family visiting. So we want to make sure we have space for them. So that's what we're doing. And then we're buying the house that we always wanted, but could never afford on this side of the state. We're just moving across the state, actually about a little more than halfway across the state to the Tri-Cities area. If you know Washington at all, it's where the Columbia River and the Snake River, and then I can't remember what the other river is right now. Columbia and the Snake kind of intersect each other. So that's where we're going to be. We're going to be in wine country. There's a lot of alpaca farms, which I'm really excited about. So it'll be a lot of fun. So I'm excited. Carlene, yes, thank you. Does pattern ownership change if another company publishes it for you? Good question, Carlene. That is actually yes and no. It depends on how you've written your contract. A lot of companies will come to me and say they'd like me to design something. In fact, I have one that's coming out in July. A yarn company came to me. I designed something for them. They bought all rights, which means that they pay me a flat fee for this pattern. I don't get any royalties on it. It's theirs to use however they want. And normally I don't do that, but for this particular company, I'm willing to do that because I know what they're doing and how they do it, and it's not going to impact my sales in any way or my reputation in any way. But there's other companies like, I'm trying to think of a pattern right now off the top of my head that, okay, so like if I think it was March, I released a pattern called Whimsy, and it was done with Trilogy Yarns, which is an indie dyer here in Washington. She lives out in the Spokane area. And what we did was, it was originally going to be for an event that she was going to here at Vogue Knitting Live is going to be here in Seattle. And what we decided to do was I would design a pattern with her yarn. She would be able to sell it in kits. And once Vogue Knitting Live was over, she could still sell the kits and buy patterns from me to create these kits, but then I would be able to sell it on my own website as well. And so what she was doing is she was paying wholesale for the print patterns, and then I could sell digital or print patterns if I wanted to on my website. And so it's kind of like I make the money from the pattern, but she has the rights to sell it. So that's another way of doing it. And then there's another way that do it, and a lot of magazines will do it this way, is that we design, let's say I design a garment for Crochet Magazine, and I have it written into my contract that they can publish it in Crochet Magazine, but after, you know, and they have it on their website, because sometimes they'll take a magazine pattern and they'll put it in their catalog as a single pattern by itself. They can do that for up to 3 years, I believe is what the contract's written these days. And then I get my rights back, and then I can start selling it myself. So there's a whole gamut, and I'm sure there's other ways. These are the 3 main ways that I've worked with patterns with other publishers. With books, it's totally different. You have to really negotiate how you want a book. So if I did a book with like, well, I've done several books with Annie's Attic, or Annie's now, I guess. I'm so used to calling him Annie's Attic, I still call him Annie's Attic, because that's what they were when I first started, and they bought my first patterns for one of their magazines. When I worked with Annie's and I did some of the pattern books for them, they had all rights. So I never got, you know, when those books went out of print, there's nothing I can do. One of the patterns, it was so popular, and I would wear the piece at events, and people would ask me for the pattern, and the book was out of print. So I did go to the publisher and say, hey, people want me to do this. Can I republish this pattern, maybe change something out of it? So if you go to my website, and I need more coffee this morning, so I can't remember anything at the moment. I did a pattern, not last year, I believe I released it, called Filigree. Filigree is the one I redid from one of my Annie's books, and they gave me permission. I just changed a couple features so it wasn't identical to the one in the book. So, so you can do that sometimes. Sometimes it depends on the publisher. There's a lot of publishers who don't want to give you any sort of rights back, and that's okay. That's okay. So, but that's how they work. What a cool collaboration idea. Yeah. I'm going to be doing more of those. You're going to see a few more coming out of me and other dyers where I do a pattern for them, and they'll buy wholesale, and then I'll be able to release the pattern after a certain period of time. So be watching for those. And Carlene says, yay, I have years of Annie's Attic crochet magazines from long ago. Yep. Me too. Annie's Attic is kind of funny because when I learned to crochet, I learned in 1974 is when I learned to crochet. But in the late 90s or late 70s, early 80s, I can't remember exactly, Annie's Attic started doing their very first Hooked on Crochet magazine. And when they first started doing that, my mom somehow got wind of it, and she gave me the inaugural subscription, and she kept that subscription up for me and through college, I think, that I had that subscription. And it's kind of funny that my very first patterns that were ever bought and sold back in 1998 were bought by Annie's Attic and were published in Hooked on Crochet. Isn't that kind of cool how it comes full circle? So anybody else have anything you want to talk about? I know I just talked about a lot about publishing. I mean, I'm glad to answer any other questions about publishing. I mean, I'm glad to answer anything about designing. I'm glad to answer anything about a problem spot you're having in crochet. If you guys have any other questions you want to ask me, that's awesome. So just let me know what you want to talk about. And you can tell me what your projects are. I just showed earlier that I'm working on a project for my next book. So how's everybody doing with are you guys, some of you, I know Linda, Brat's mom, said she's going back to work, which is awesome. Things are opening up. Oh, the Pattern Club booklets. Yes, I forgot about those. Yes, Carly, I have a few of those somewhere too. I mean, they've been doing pattern clubs before pattern clubs were popular, haven't they? I mean, pattern clubs have been around for a long, long time with Annie's. I forgot about this. I have a set of their collector doll patterns. Do you remember when dressing up your Barbies as, historical characters was really big? I did those. Actually made one for my daughter when she was little, and I made one for one of my nieces who loved princesses, and I had one of a princess that I did for her. So yeah, I have those too. Those are awesome. Yeah, yes. Yeah, those were fun. I mean, the detail work was, I mean, even before I started designing, those were very detailed. Hi, Juanita. Oh, you guys are back to cold weather. We have rain here too, so I understand. How do I get inspiration for my patterns? That's a good question too, because I get it everywhere. I can be walking around downtown, somewhere, and I'll see something that sparks an idea. I have an Afghan pattern from way back when I was first starting designing that looks like tie-dye, and the idea from it came from a tie-dye shirt that I saw in the store. Like coastal crochet, it came from my love of the ocean. That's another thing. Sometimes I'll see like a cardigan or a pullover at Nordstrom's or Kohl's or somewhere that I'm shopping at the mall, and that'll spark an idea. A lot of times, honestly, and I know this might sound a little strange, and I think it's just the way I crochet, but sometimes I'll just buy a skein of yarn and it'll tell me what it is that I want. I mean, I can see a skein of yarn, like I bought one a few months ago before this we got shut down, from a local dyer, and I knew right away exactly what it was going to be. The Queen of Hearts shawl that I shown you a couple weeks ago, literally I saw the yarn at CGOA Portland in the vendor market, and I knew exactly what I was going to do with it. It just took me a while to get it done. So a lot of times that's what happens is I'll see a skein of yarn, and I think I've worked with yarn, especially indie dyed yarn, long enough now that even when I see the yarn in a hank and I haven't started swatching with it, I kind of know what it's going to do when you crochet the swatch. I mean, I always crochet a swatch and make sure that the stitches I pick aren't going to be muddied by the, how much color is coming out of the skein, stuff like that. But a lot of times I can say, okay, this one is a good tonal. It'll go with, maybe make a really cool sweater. This one has so short color changes that I can't do anything but, simple stitches. This one might have too many speckles to be a lace work pattern, that kind of thing. I know I can kind of do that. So does that make sense, Juanita? How I pick, how I design? And a lot of times too, I will sketch something out myself. I have a notebook where I'll sketch stuff once in a while when I get an idea in my head, and I'll sketch like a sweater, let's say a cardigan, and I'll say, oh, this would kind of be cool with a speckled yarn that's just speckled, not with color changes and things like that. And then I'll go shopping for yarn, whether it's online or at a shop, with a specific look in mind, what it looks like on the hank. And that's how I do it too. So, and even Garden of Shawls, another book that was specifically me. I knew that I wanted pretty much all tonals and gradients in that book, because I had a specific way of wanting these sweater or these shawls to be garden-like. That they there were colors you'd see in the flowers and things like that. So that's kind of how I get my inspiration. And then sometimes you have to follow your heart too, because a lot of times it's like this nagging in my heart. Karen, you need to make a shawl that looks like this, or you need to make a sweater that looks like that. Modern Italian lace crochet. was developed from Karen. You've got to show everybody what Nonna taught you. So, and make it more modern so that people aren't, turned off by all these doilies and bedspreads and things. But yeah, that's exactly how I work. So, anybody else have any questions for me or want to share what they're working on? You guys are so quiet today. There's a few of you on here though. That's awesome. I'm glad to see you guys here. Have you guys liked having, like kind of a touch base to, once a week just chatting about stuff? For me, it's been really good because I am, being under lockdown and not being able to go to a yarn shop. I mean, I do talk to my local yarn shop owner every once in a while because we work on stuff together as well. And, but it's not the same as being able to always be, able to leave my house and go where I need to go and chat with people that I need to chat face to face. So this weekly chat has been awesome for me. Carlene, I like following your heart, being true to yourself and your heritage and letting the yarn speak. How important is it to design to the current industry color and style trends? I think it's important for me, I'm going to use myself as an example because I know what I do. I am true to my heart, true to what my heritage is, what I like. And you'll notice most of my designs, if not all, are in fingering weight yarn. I mean, that's my sweet spot. I love fingering weight. I love lace weight too. I'll have a pattern later coming out in lace weight. There's a couple patterns in the new book that are in lace weight. But I will do DK and worsted, and I've done bulky. Bulky is not my favorite, but I will do it. If I was working for more publishers and magazines or yarn companies, like bigger yarn companies like maybe Hirschner's or Willow or Premier or Red Heart, it's important because they have specific things that they want. I mean, especially like companies like Red Heart and Lion Brand, when I designed for them, they wanted things in worsted weight all of the time. And that's not my sweet spot, even though I'll do it for them. I've done a lot of Afghans in the past. I've got a lot of garments that were done in worsted weight that I would never wear them, but they sold well for the companies. So you kind of have to follow the trends when you're working for someone else. But when you're working for yourself, and my niche is lace, I mean, crocheted lace of all sorts, because my background's in Italian lace. That's my sweet spot. So when working for myself, I follow my heart more. I try to stick on trend with the types of yarns I use, like the speckles are really hot right now and gradients. And I like those anyway. And I always like trying new and different yarns, different fibers, things like that. So I try to stay current with all of that stuff. But you might see that I'm more of a shawl person or, more of a garment person than maybe some of those bloggers out there who are doing all the free patterns. And there are a lot of Afghans, a lot of bulky sweaters, a lot, because they're working with the box store yarns. And so those box store yarns are asking them to use yarns that aren't my favorite yarns to use. And they may not even be their favorite yarns to use, but because they're getting paid to do it, they're willing to do it. A lot of them will, do free patterns on their website, and they get either the company pays them in yarn, or sometimes they'll get a stipend or because it's a promoted yarn that they're using, or they'll get their money from their ads on their website. I don't do that. I don't do ads. I feel like I shouldn't be, I'm a businesswoman and I shouldn't be promoting things that aren't crochet, first of all, and I'm not a big ad person. So that's where I'm different from that. And I follow what I believe is right and what I like to do. So, all my followers are in the niche of they like to do lace patterns. And I have a lot of followers who love my patterns, but they don't like the fingering weight, and they, make their patterns in worsted. I mean, I have Sandy is a big example. I don't think she's here today, but Sandy loves my beachcomber sweater from Coastal Crochet. That was made in lace in the book, and she makes it in DK and worsted. So it's not, you know, I don't, that you like the pattern, you don't necessarily like the weight of the yarn. So that should make, does that make sense, Carlene? Juanita, that's wonderful. From all points possible inspiration. Yeah. You know, I don't, for inspiration, Juanita, I don't, you know, there's a lot of times something that is totally odd will knock me in the head and say, oh, I could totally do this. And I'll do it. And I've done that in the past. And Juanita, you're spinning again. Yay. I noticed that on Instagram that you've been doing some spinning. I had to pack away all my spinning stuff. I really want to do some spinning, but I'm going to wait until after the move to pull my wheel back out and do that. Because I tend to be a messy spinner. I end up getting fiber everywhere. So I'm gonna wait on the spinning for right now. Yes, especially because now is one of my typical days off. Okay, I'm not sure why you were saying that, Carlene, especially because now is when Juanita is very talented with her spinning and her crocheting for spinning for crochet. It's beautiful work. If you don't follow her on Instagram, you should. Juanita, you should put your Instagram handle up there so that people can follow you if they're on Instagram. She does a lot of stuff, and you do a lot of yardage. Oh, yes, Carlene, yes. I love fingering and lace weight for that reason too, because I'm big on not spending a whole lot of money. And if you do, you know, if you buy a $30 skein of lace weight yarn, you can do so much more with it than if you buy a $30 skein of worsted weight yarn. You could have like 1,700 yards of lace versus, you know, maybe 100, 150 in worsted sometimes. So for the same price. So lace and fingering, definitely. More bang for your buck and lots of yardage. Oh, and yes, the live chats. I saw that. Okay, Juanita, I have a funny story that you can just imagine. Worsted weight, post stitches, not making gauge, swatch, crochet the whole sweater. I have a Ziploc next to my, to collect your fuzzies. That's a good idea, actually, Juanita, of having the Ziploc. So you crocheted the whole sweater, not making gauge. Was it too small or too big? That's what I'm curious about, Juanita. And you like the live chats, Carlene. Okay, that's what I was understanding. Yeah. So awesome. I'm glad these live chats are helping with everybody who can be here. You know, eventually that might change to a different date or time depending on what my life is going to end up being like once we move. But as of right now, this probably will stay even after the shutdown's over. I might rename this to something else, but for right now, I thought Stay at Home with Me is probably a good name just to keep going. Lately, one of my days off has fallen on you. Like, oh, that's good. I'm so glad, Carlene, that you can be here. And thank you, Juanita, for putting your handle up. That's awesome. Awesome. You could fit 3 of yourself in that sweater. Oh, I bet. And post stitches can stretch your fabric so much too. Oh my gosh. So you're one of those, so that would be one of those sweaters that you see the memes all the time where the husband and wife are both in the sweater. And that's why gauge is so important, people. You know, a lot of people don't want to do gauge swatches. And for Afghans, I can understand that. But when you're making garments, you gotta have gauge, and gauge is king. And even all my books, I have a whole section on gauge and talk about why it's so important. Even though when I write my patterns, I try to increase the yardage by 10% just in case, because you know, I weigh and measure and everything when I do my patterns. So I usually have a pretty good idea of how much yarn is needed for each one, but I always multiply it by 10%. To just up the yardage a little bit so that you make sure that even if you don't do gauge properly, you have enough yarn to finish the project. But the other thing is that, I mean, if you want your sweater to fit your body the way it looks in the picture, you know, even if it's a different size than what the picture is, you've got to follow gauge. It's just, that's just got to be something you got to do. So, oh, I didn't realize you were a nurse, Carlene. Okay, so your schedule changes a lot. Okay, thank you for being on the front lines right now. That's amazing. So, yeah, nurses, I have a lot of respect for nurses even before this COVID. I also have an aunt who's a nurse, and I have a couple sister-in-laws. A sister-in-law who's a nurse, I guess, just one of them is a nurse. And they are, yeah, you guys work hard, very hard. So 3 of yourself at the time. I just can't even imagine. I did make sweaters for my kids when they were younger but I intentionally made them bigger so that they, you know, all that hard work would last for a while, because they were both growing really, really, really fast. And so you see, I have pictures of one of the sweaters my son made for my son with the sleeve rolled up a couple times. And then he still wore that sweater into college, which was really cool. I didn't realize I had made it that much too big, but he wore it into college and loved it. So yeah, you still have it, did some kind of steeking and still have it. Oh, okay. So you made it a cardigan instead of a pullover. Is that what you're saying, Juanita? That you steeked it? I sometimes save swatches, kind of like having my own 3Ds. Yes, yes. I used to have, my old desk, my new desk now, I don't have that drawer, but they're all in a box now. But I used to have a drawer where I threw all my swatches, even if I used them already for a design, I just throw them into this box now and keep them, because sometimes I want to use a stitch pattern again too. And I do that. And every once in a while, you'll see there's a couple edgings that I use a lot, and I'll use them in different ways. There's like my ripple shawl that I have out the pattern for. That's actually the, excuse me, the whole stitch pattern. But I use a modified version of it, you know, like so many rows of that stitch pattern. And I've done it for Afghan edgings. I've done it for other shawl edgings. Excuse me. Oh, hang on. I got to take a sip. Oh, yeah, so that's what I keep my swatches for, is to give me ideas too, but it's a great way to have a 3D stitch dictionary. Someone I knew several years ago, I'm trying to remember who it was now, took a stitch dictionary that they had on their shelf and every day made a swatch from it. And then they put it in, I believe they put it in a book, so that they could have the actual book, the stitch dictionary book, but then they could actually have a book of all of the swatches that they made with different yarns. You know, some of them she made it fingering, and some she made in DK, and some she made in worsted, you know, and all that. So you could kind of see. No, I lost my train of thought. But yeah, I love the idea of keeping your swatches so you can remember what the stitches really look like. Thank you, Karen and Juanita. Oh, occupational health, but still, you're there. You do have a little bit of a risk, you know, with people coming in and out. Still, and in occupational health, honestly, when I was working full time, I had issues with the shoulder, and I have early onset arthritis. And I worked with occupational health for those. And yeah, you guys are awesome. Seamed too small. Oh, okay, Juanita, you seam to a smaller size. That's a cool idea. Yeah, I bet these seams are kind of thick. Wow, that's a good idea. I never would have thought of that. That's kind of cool. So you can wear that sweater then. That's awesome. I never really would have thought about that. That's a good idea. I know that there are some crocheters out there that will cut their crochet just like knitters cut and do steeking to make a pullover, a cardigan. I have yet to take the time to play with that idea. I've often thought of that, you know, to put that in my repertoire of tricks to help people when they do have a gauge problem with a garment. And I'm so afraid of what it's going to do when I cut it. So I I'm just wondering if you could make those seams a little thinner just because doing that technique. But that's a really good idea. That's a really good idea. Did you cut those seams or cut some of the fabric out, Juanita? Or did you just leave them the way they were? So if you had an extra inch or something on either side. I'm just curious about that. That's a technique I keep saying that I need to play with and just see what it does. I just haven't done it. I have so many things in my mind that, that I mean, I know a lot about Tunisian, but there's still some things in Tunisian I want to play with that I haven't had time to do. Things like seaming and cutting the fabric. That's why I'm so big on gauge, is that I'd rather not have to do some crazy cutting to make a garment fit the way I want it to. So, yeah. So I see there's a few more people that dropped in. If you want to introduce yourself and let me know who you are and where you're watching from, I would love to hear who's here and chat with you. I know Ruth is here, I think, still. But Carlene and Juanita have been here. You cut and that would be great, Juanita. If you could take a picture of what you did and post it to group. If for those of you who might not know my group on Facebook, I have a group called Team Hooligan. I'll type it in exactly how you would search for it in Facebook if you're on Facebook. Oops. I gotta make sure my cursor's there before I do it. You have to have excuse me. You have to have the hashtag there. So it's Team Hooligan with the hashtag. Team Hooligan came about because several of my live students in classes started calling themselves the hooligans. So I thought that would be an awesome name for my Facebook group. It's called Team Hooligan. So if you're interested in joining us, definitely head over to Facebook and search for that and join us. I haven't been super active in there lately. I've been trying to check it every couple times a week. So it's been kind of quiet other than people posting different pictures or asking questions. But I'm hoping that once I get moved out of this house and I'm settled into our new house, which will probably be closer to the end of the year, that I can get active in that group again. So more active. I mean, I try to post when I can in there. So it's just been, in fact, I have the book release coming, but other than the book release, I'm probably not going to be super, super active until this house here gets sold. So just so you guys know, I thought it was a cute name too. I thought, calling everybody the Team Hooligans would be kind of fun. So, I never really thought about calling, Hooley is my last name. A lot of people want to say Wooly, but it's actually a silent W. My husband's family, when they came over from Ireland, when they go through Staten Island or Ellis Island, not Staten Island, Ellis Island, a lot of times when they wrote the names back in the day, they would add things or subtract things. And in his case, there were 3 brothers that came over, and I think 2 of them had the W put in front, and the other one had just the Hooley. So if you see Whooley or Hooley, chances are they're related to my husband. So, but it's pronounced Hooley with a silent W. Okay, you quit Facebook over a year ago, but you missed the crochet groups. I know. There's a part of me that has a love-hate relationship with Facebook because things keep changing, and I'll post things and nobody will see them because they've changed the algorithm and things like that. So it's really hard. Okay. That's good to know that my followers are not part of Facebook too. I mean, I know a lot of you are, but it's good to know that there's a lot of you that aren't. So I can find other places. In fact, I've been considering putting a chat group of sorts or a forum type thing where my followers can be kind of like Team Hooligan over there, but make a Team Hooligan on my own website. So it's something I've been trying to figure out. I mean, I know I need to have a presence on Facebook because that's just where crocheters do tend to gather. But I'd like to have something that's not on Facebook. I'm not on Ravelry either. So that's why all my patterns are sold through my own website, Lovecrafts Makerist. And I used to be in Pattern Vine. Pattern Vine had to shut down because of the COVID stuff. I don't know if she's going to reopen or not. But I've thought about Etsy, but that just seems like too much paperwork. So I am going to stick with what I've got right now. There's another platform that's coming out in August that I'm looking into right now too. So I'll keep you guys informed on that. Oh, wow. You had a creepy security scare. Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah. No, and you're not the first one to say that about Facebook. I do know that. Sorry, guys. My phone is ringing. Hang on. Okay. I should have turned off the sound on my phone. Yeah, you're not the first one I've heard about the stalkers on Facebook too. It is kind of interesting. I started Facebook because I wanted my family so far away, so this is a great way for me to keep in touch with my family. So that'll probably always be there. And my my personal page is pretty much only family and friends. So I have my public business page and then the group. So, but the group I have a tight control over. So we haven't had, I don't think we've had, Juanita, you might remember, have we had any spammers come in that group or weird, creepy people? I don't think so. I don't think so. I know back in the day, we used to have a Yahoo group here for Washington and for Washington crocheters. And we would get stalkers in there once in a while or creepy people that would be spamming us with stuff. So I'm big on that, especially when my kids were younger too. I was trying to keep things really locked down. Now that they're both adults, they do whatever they want to do and I don't have to worry about it. I don't think so either. Yeah, I think we've been pretty good on my group. So yeah, but I totally understand. And like I said, I have a love-hate relationship with it too. Your friend was hacking that person. Oh yeah. No, I have a good friend that just happened to. She left Facebook over it too. And then I have a cousin who left Facebook for someone else got hacked and they were bugging her too. And just like you, Carlene. So yeah, you have to be careful in these spaces. And there's a part of me, one of the things I do is I read a lot of business books, whether they're related to the crafting industry or not. And one of the books I highly recommend, if you're interested in this kind of thing, is called Digital Minimalism. I can never say that, by Cal Newport. And he is a computer science professor at Georgetown. And he has no Facebook, no Twitter, no Instagram. And he talks about why, because his wife has Facebook, and he talks about why, as a business person anyway, why being minimalistic on social media is a good thing. And he's actually made me think about my social media usage a little bit more. And that's why I haven't expanded to like TikTok or any of those other places that seem to be the new hot thing. I mean, I was on MySpace way back in the day, and look at what happened to MySpace. And I don't know that Facebook's going to be around forever. It seems like it right now, but we thought that about MySpace too. So, and being a computer person myself, yeah, that's kind of, yeah, so social media is interesting. Your friend was hacked. Okay, if you join again, you won't put your potato up or your photo up and give any personal details. Okay, I don't know who this bad rad piano person is, but obviously there's someone who's trolling. I'm gonna delete their messages, and so yeah. So we're just going to take that person out. That's the thing about doing these live things on YouTube too. This happened last week too, where people were just posting weird stuff. So I want to be public to you guys so that people, maybe people who are crocheters that don't know me can see, hey, there's another crocheter out there chatting. But you got to kind of watch for these weird people that come out there. So, anyway, anybody else have any questions for me or want to chat about what they're working on? Oh, hi, Gina. That's okay. You're late. That's okay. I'm going to be here for another about 9 minutes. So we were just chatting about, we just had questions, kind of a Q&A. People were asking me about publishing and where my inspiration comes from and things like that. So if you have a question, regarding to crochet or with the things that I do, or even that it's not about me, it's about you, that you want to ask a question about, go for it. I'm glad to be here for another few minutes. My daughter is leaving around 10 o'clock my time to go back to her university. So I want to be sure I'm off in time to wish her goodbye, all that stuff. So, I'm going to see her next weekend anyway when we move her back. But, mom's got to be mom. But yeah, so anybody has questions or wants to talk about a project? What are you working on, Gina? You're listening, but your head is stuck in the file cabinet. That's okay. You know what? That's totally fine. I'm just glad you're here. I'm glad you're able to listen while you're at work. Hey, that's important. That's being back at work. You're super excited to get started on crocheting the cardigan from my new book. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh, I want to make sure you post pictures of that because I would like to see that. And when you give it to her, oh my gosh. Oh, that makes my heart feel happy. You have no idea because I'm so, my grandmother didn't live to be 92, but I would love to have made that sweater for her when she was alive. If I would have, I know she would have wore it. I was telling people I was pulling, or maybe I didn't tell you guys, I was talking to somebody earlier this morning. Well, you'll be able to pre-order it next week, Gina. So be ready. It's going to be going on for the newsletter subscribers. It'll be going out. You'll get an email on Monday with a special pre-sale for just the newsletter subscribers with a discount. I forgot to mention that earlier. If you order within the first 24 hours for my newsletter subscribers only, you will get a $2 discount off the book. And once it goes live to the public on Tuesday, it'll be back to full price. Yes, that will be super special. What's funny is I was cleaning out my stash closet, packing things up, and one of the boxes I pulled out yesterday had a pair of slippers that I had made my grandmother before she died, and they were the only piece of crocheted thing that she would wear while she was living at home and sick. And my mom would go visit her, and she'd have my slippers on. And then when she passed away, before she passed away, she told my mom that she wanted me to have them back. And so yesterday when I pulled them out, tears in my eyes, and my daughter was there helping me. And I don't know what made me bring them up to my nose to sniff. And it smelled like my grandmother's, the detergent she used to use when she washed her clothes. Because there's those smells that you'll always associate with someone in your family. And that's what I smelled on those slippers. And, things like that are just so super special. So I understand making things for your great aunt. That's so awesome. I'm so excited, Gina, that you're going to do that, though. I'm so excited to get this book out in the public. I know that I've had a few people review it, and they all love it. So I'm really excited to see what my followers think, and because it's such a special book to me. So I think this is the book that will always be my favorite, just because it's so much about my grandmother who taught me to crochet. So anybody else have any questions or want to talk about something? Let me know. My voice is starting to go again. I really am looking forward to all of the blooming bushes and trees to stop so that I can speak properly again and not sound like I'm sick. So anyway, well, if nobody's got anything to say, I might just go ahead and close down a little early. I will be back next Tuesday for if I just because of this move and if things change at all, I will let you guys know on Facebook and on Instagram and even I'll if I have to send out a special newsletter, I'll do that too. If you're subscribed to me on YouTube, it'll always tell you when I'm going live and things like that too. So you might want to hit that subscribe button just so that you're subscribed. Um, and if you have any questions for me in the meantime, between, you can always go to my website and shoot me an email. And if it's something that I can actually even address, I mean, I definitely would address it to questions on email. But if it's something that I might talk about on the next live, we can do that too. And next week, I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet next week, but be prepared if you have any questions for me or stuff like that. I probably will be talking because it's launch day for Modern Italian Lace Crochet. So it might be, or pre-sale launch, I should say, for Modern Italian Lace Crochet. So we might be talking about that a lot. But I wanted to, I'm still going to think about some things that we can talk about as well next week. But I just want to say, have a great day. Have a great week, and I will see you next time. So let me know if you've got any questions. Thanks, guys, for being here. I appreciate you, each and every one of you. Talk to you soon.